beat 2, 3, 4. Dylan Butler, it is time for Wednesdays with Dylan. And as always, my first question for you was, how was your high school weekend, sir?
It was good. It was good. Friday night game, Saturday afternoon game. Saturday was the homecoming game, so those were always a lot of fun, big crowds. The games weren't as competitive as I would have hoped. You do all your prep and you're hoping for a big game. In fact, the second game, which was a backyard brawl between Bethpage and Plain Edge, was 42-0 at the half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So,
but it was running time. They have running time in New York for those instances. So
I was going to say, do you have running clock at north of 40 in the second half and north of 30 in the fourth quarter?
It's actually just 35 whenever, I think.
Okay. Because down here in this part of the world, it is 40 if the coaches agree at halftime. And then it is 30 or north regardless. The coaches do not have to agree in the fourth quarter for it to be a running clock. And yeah, I've had my share of those too. So I know exactly what running clock is. And you're sitting there going, great, I only have to fill for 12 minutes.
But also you're doing it with a lot of guys maybe you didn't necessarily have prep for. So that's always
true. And that's where you hope that the roster that you have is accurate with names and numbers all the way down to your underclassmen. So you can sit there and have your pronouncers right and have all the mamas be, proud that their underclassmen's getting mentioned. All of those things. I know of which you speak, sir.
But it was funny. I had all of my worlds sort of converge on the weekend because I had my high school football broadcast Friday night, Saturday. Sunday morning early, I was out at Hofstra University for some fall ball lacrosse, women's lacrosse. So I was doing some stuff there for USA Lacrosse Magazine. And then I hightailed it home for decision day. So I had my soccer, my high school football, and my lacrosse all together.
Okay.
Potpourri.
Since you have transitioned excellently, as you always do, when you hang out with us on Wednesdays, your takeaways from Decision Day, and I know that we had match chaos in the East with Orlando and Columbus, and we'll get into that story in a little bit, but from 30,000 feet, takeaways from Decision Day.
I was disappointed. It wasn't as chaotic as I would have hoped it would be, because a few of those games were kind of not necessarily decided, but certainly like, look, the race for the top of the East, that was done in like 30 minutes, right? Like Philly was, as long as Philly won and they were already up like 2-0 pretty quickly. So, that one sort of wasn't interesting. And then it was Wednesday's games, took away a little bit of the chaotic nature of Decision Day, because then you had Miami already clinch and Charlotte then being knocked out, right? So it came down to Orlando Columbus, which delivered, no doubt. Mm-hmm. But then in the West, both of the games that I did get wrong did not again, it wasn't really contested, right? Like you didn't have that Jameer Krylak stoppage time disputed winner, right? Like it was pretty much done and dusted early. So it was in that sense, it for me, Decision Day left a lot to be desired. The Golden Boot race suddenly became interesting with Gazdag doing what he did, but even there, like he fell a goal short. You don't expect him to get 4 in the day. So
no. But then after match chaos in the East, we had our first firing of the postseason. Now, and I mentioned this back on Monday, I had a gut feeling that the loser of that game was probably going to lose their job. And I ended up not being wrong, that the loser of that game was who bet his house, apparently, on making the postseason at the beginning of the year. So Caleb Porter is now looking for both a job and, I guess, a house.
Yeah. And it was actually, I'll take you guys inside this. It was interesting. So I was on that post-match press conference Zoom call, and I actually had the first question Didn't expect it, but I had the first question. So, I asked them, I said, I know it just ended, but and maybe you haven't been able to take a deeper dive into it, but the 24 points dropped from winning positions. I'd imagine is that kind of what you're looking at as to why you didn't make the playoffs again? And he was bluntly honest. He said, Dylan, 100%. He said, um, this game, the Orlando game, he called a microcosm of the entire season. He called it a recurring nightmare, because it was, right. Like, and this is why I don't think you can't watch soccer just about like the other metrics, right? Because all the metrics tilted for Columbus in that game, right? Like Orlando, let's be honest, they were terrible for an hour.
Yes, they were.
Right? They were booed off the pitch at halftime. Columbus took the game to them. Derek Etienne scores the early goal. What was missing in this game and so many other games for Columbus was that dagger, that second goal, right? Like the killer goal. You keep an Orlando in it, and then suddenly, really kind of out of nowhere, they get the equalizer, and that's where Porter said the game changed. And obviously, you get the PK at the end as well. But on that call, it was difficult to be on, because you could see him, and I don't think he was told yet, right? Because I think he's so honest. I think he would have said, I just got fired, right? But like, he was saying, like, look, there's blame to be shared, but I'm the guy. The buck stops with me. I've got a year left on my contract, but futures are going to be decided, mine included, probably. He said so. He said it just wasn't good enough. He said he loved the club. He was hoping he could finish out, but and then he literally just ended it with just saying sorry. And in that moment, we joke around on the show and other opportunities, and pick at people, but you feel for a guy in that moment, because he did. You could say what you will about him, and maybe you could say he's arrogant, right? But in that moment, you kind of feel for him, right? Because he's being human. He's hurt. He's broken down. Realizing probably he's at the end, and sure enough, less than 24 hours later, the word comes down that he's out.
And you look at that, and you look at the playoff picture, and we know what the matchups are going to be, and we'll get into that toward the end here to get your early window into Dylan's playoff predictions, and we'll put that in like a neon sign or something above the marquee. Dylan's playoff predictions. The other news that came out has been kind of still a part of the trickle of everything with NWSL and Major League Soccer, and now Merritt Paulson announced yesterday that he's stepping away. It's another piece of the incremental element of Merritt Paulson stepping away from owning Timbers and Thorns. It was just the next stage in this, and that went down yesterday.
Yeah, and just before that, right, Gavin Wilkinson as well was out. Yes, it's we deal so much with the sporting side of things, and teams and wins and losses and how teams look. And this one, you can't even begin to guess what the Timbers will look like next year, because we don't know what they'll look like above the sporting side, right? Like, this is still a very fluid situation. So yeah, I mean, it needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I give Merritt Paulson credit for doing that. The arguments would be made that they and rightfully so, I think, acted way too slow in this situation, right? Like, this has been going on for more than a year. Yeah. Their own fan base has put out signs, right? Like, during the games about Wilkinson out and so, it was the right thing to do, just a little bit too late, or later than a lot of people hope for.
Yeah, because I mean, last time we had something like this with the Deloy Hansen situation, and we mentioned it briefly with
Yeah.
Bart Keeler before you came on. The league were stewards for a year, and trying to find that right owner and trying to make sure that everything for both Royals and RSL could still function as a franchise. I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar thing that you're looking at here, and you can't just have an immediate step away. It's like, nope, I'm selling, I'm out. It has to be done the right way so you don't damage what has been built in the infrastructure of soccer in the Pacific Northwest. I'm not talking front office. I'm talking specifically Timbers and what they've done, Thorns and what they've done, and the infrastructure of everything else that has been a part of what Paulson has been part and parcel to. It can't just be an immediate step away. Although, yes, it was the right thing to do. Yes, Wilkinson, Golub, and Paulson should all be out the door, but it's not something that you can just sit there and flip a light switch and go, yep, okay, we're on to the next stage here.
And that's the interesting thing, right? Because you would say both organizations are what everybody else, just about everyone else in both leagues want to be, right? Like they get their 20,000 plus. I mean, and the Thorns do as well, right? Massive crowds.
Yep.
They are, the biggest things in that city. And that's where it's going to be really tricky going forward, right? Because it's different, I think, than the Salt Lake situation because look, the Timbers and the Thorns are bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, right? Like so. There's been so many years, and even before the MLS Timbers, there's just been such an amazing soccer culture. You don't want to do more to damage that,
right?
So it's very like you're walking on eggshells going forward, I think.
Yep. All right. And so Coco in the Twitch pitch this morning wanted to get your thoughts about a topic that we have discussed here quite some time, close to your heart geographically as well, because of how you'd like to have things, laid out for you.
Yep.
Ferent Soriano, CEO of City Football Group, says, quote, "We are very close to announcing where we're going to build a stadium," end quote, for NYCFC. That came out yesterday. Soriano says he's hopeful the team will be able to announce an update by the end of the calendar year.
Great. I mean, like it's look, it's a very frustrated fan base. I think it's been clear that Yankee Stadium, that I've likened it in the past to sort of like you go to your buddy's house, right, and you're like, mind if I can I just stay here for like a couple days?
Yeah.
It's like, no problem, man. We got the spare room. It's all good. You can hang out. And then suddenly 7 years later, you're like, dude, when are you getting out of here? Like,
what was the Owen Wilson movie?
I think I just saw that the other day too.
That's You, Me, and Dupree.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that NYCFC is the professional soccer version of You, Me, and Dupree.
Pretty much. And the Yankee Stadium, I think that that marriage has long been dissolved. And then they've been nomads, obviously, and it's been never more evident than this week, right, where you cannot play at Yankee Stadium. You were at Red Bull Arena because you couldn't play at Citi Field. Now you're back at Citi Field. Like that's and you got less than a week now to tell all your fans, oh, if you weren't going to go to New Jersey, come to Flushing now. Like it's.
And the MLS soccer website still has them playing at Red Bull.
Correct. And maybe they still will. No, they're at Citi Field.
Don't encourage, sir.
Yeah, seriously. So listen, any news, any definitive news is exactly what the NYCFC fans want. It's been so slow, this whole process. It will not go faster, because again, you'll have an announcement of a site, then you're waiting for the groundbreaking, and then you're waiting for the build, and so we're still not anywhere. NYCFC fans rightfully so want that stadium ready for the first kick next year. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for a few years, unfortunately.
Yeah. Going back to July when we were talking about it, Mayor Eric Adams had approved an NYCFC stadium for Queens. That was, according to quote sources, end quote. And that was the last we'd heard
But
about.
now you wonder too. This will be interesting, right? Like, so if they announce that site to be around Citi Field, right? Maybe will NYCFC work out a deal with the Mets and put all of their home games at Citi Field next year and make that their hub? Because it would be, from a business standpoint, that would be wise, right? Because you want your fans to get used to getting to that place. Have your establishments that you want to hit before the game. Do your tailgating. Whatever it is, like, you want them to feel very comfortable around where your full stadium, where your home will be, right? So I think that might be a wise bit of business if that's the case.
Yep. All right. So we have the 6 matches, 2 on the 15th, 2 on the 16th, 2 on the 17th, and it's interesting timing, especially on the 16th, where last time I checked, you're looking at a calendar and it's 2 on Monday, which is.
I'm not going to ask you where you pulled that calendar out from.
Just right next to the desk, because I can't have it. I can't have it on my. I can't have it on my desk because I have camera plus desktop. I have laptop, and then I have second laptop. And so I can't have this pinned in underneath everything. And so here's your October assignments, and I just have it off to my side, down here on the table, and it is one of 4 calendars that I have to reference at any given time, because here's number 2.
This is my calendar. This is
see, that's number 4 for me. That's the 4th one I have to reference because I have to figure out how to get there. This is done old school news style writing, like we used to have the scripts and you cut it, you go down.
Yep.
All of the show times and everything here, and all the guests, because if you go down right there, it says Dylan 10A Wednesday. In the Wednesday section, Dylan 10A. And that's number 2. Number 3 is attached to the fridge where the boss and I have our travel plans, and we go like this. And then number 4 is the one on the Google Calendar.
We have others in the house, but I only reference my phone.
Yeah, see, I got to go. That's 4th one for me. I have, since I spend most of my time here anchored here, I've got to have 1 or 2 close by. Interesting that you've got 2 on Monday night going up against Monday Night Football. So you have Monday Night Football and Monday Night Football. Red Bull Cincinnati at noon. Then you've got LA and Nashville at 3. Then Sunday, actually, let's just take it a day at a time. Red Bull Cincinnati to start things off at noon on Saturday, going up against college football. Red Bulls right now at a -110.
Now, first of all, just to cut, I mean, they're going to go against football regardless.
True.
Right? Like Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I like that MLS is doing that, in the sense of, not that they're saying, we're better than football or bigger than football, but don't kowtow, right? Like, don't then have your game on a Tuesday at 5 or something because nothing else is happening, right? So, have your games. I love that you've got 2 each day. So you get your early game, you get your late game. East Coast, West Coast. Like, I like the way that it's set up. Like, I don't have, if you're an FC Cincinnati fan, you've been waiting forever.
Yeah.
And you're a Cincinnati Bearcat fan, well, then you'll deal with it, right?
Normal TV 12:08 kick with Red Bull and Cincinnati. What do you see?
I see the first. I see the likelihood of an upset here. I see Cincinnati. I see Cincinnati, because it's funny, right? Because I was on. I know your listeners check in on me on other spots as well.
Yes,
I was on with Jason Davis, and I mentioned this to him as well on Sirius XM FC. But Cincinnati has the same amount of road wins as the Red Bulls have home wins, right? So That's one. I think you need that guy in the playoffs to score your goals, right? Like, or guys. And Cincinnati has that. You can look at three different players between Lucho, Acosta, Brenner, and Brandon Vasquez and feel pretty confident that you'll get a goal or two from those guys.
Right.
The Red Bulls do not have that guy, right? Like you did get a brace on against Charlotte, fair enough, but there's been that revolving door at the striker position since Bradley Wright Phillips is retired, right? Or just not re-signed. He went to LAFC, obviously, then he retired. But so that's one thing. Now I'm not sold on Cincinnati's defense.
No.
I don't think they mind. It'll be a rock fight.
No.
No. And yeah, I don't, I don't have a ton of confidence in the Red Bulls because they don't have that guy, and they don't really have anyone consistently who, I would say, outside of Lewis Morgan. I think Lewis Morgan's been the most consistent scoring threat. I don't think they've had that, and also I feel like their ethos is about defending and being hard to play against.
Yeah.
But I think there's been cracks in that of late. They haven't looked as good defensively. Carlos Coronel has not been what he was a year ago. So yeah, I see Cincinnati. It's a mild one for me. I don't know. I don't look at the odds like you do. I stay away from that angle of things, but I can't imagine Cincinnati's a big underdog in this game.
Let's see. Let me go back to the numbers really quickly, and I will go by. I have a composite that I consult. Our buddies at Odds Portal, who need to really sponsor this show, they have a composite of about 12 to 15 different juice box purveyors. Red Bulls in the composite are a -106. FC Cincinnati's a +275. So that's how it's looking right now. Obviously, things can change as we get later in the week. Back into the doubleheader Saturday, 3:00. LAG and Nashville, odds are basically the same, but that's an interesting one for me.
I think when I looked at all of the first round matchups, this was the one I was most excited about. Because exactly what you said, right? Like you've got you've got the on one side in Nashville, you've got that team that's obviously has the defensive solidity. They've got the playoff pedigree now that, they've done this now for a couple years in a row. They've got the Golden Boot winner, who's likely going to be the MVP winner. He received my vote, and Hani Mukhtar.
Okay.
And then, but then you've got an LA team that's red hot, right? Like you've got a Chicharito who's scoring goals, and you've got that midfield now that you didn't have throughout the year. With Puig and Brugman, super intrigued about this game because here's a problem here. So here's the thing, like I think it's what we do in our business is like you want to project ahead and then get excited about that next round, right? So I think I'm excited more about the possibility of Cincy Philly because of the whole Noonan and Albright and
True.
Philly and that whole aspect of it.
Yeah.
Then and plus that game could be 7-6, right? Like that could be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Less so than Red Bull Philly. I've seen that before. We've been there and done that.
Yeah, you want a rock fight? That's a rock fight.
Oh, and then to this one, like, and I know we're gonna be so disappointed by this, but I want that Trafico game again, right?
See, you and I are
wanting it so much, it's not going to happen.
I know. See, you and I just want it so we can continue to say El Trafico. I know Jason has been one to hate the El Trafico moniker. I love it, considering
I agree. I'm with you. But because again, I love every one of those games, and you look back to the only playoff game, right, where it's Vela and Zlatan, and this time it would be Vela and Chicharito, and it would be amazing. It would be amazing. But LA have to get the job done against Nashville. That's not going to be easy, obviously. Now, LA's gotten the job done against Nashville in the regular season. They won and they drew. So Nashville hasn't beaten them. But I'm not sold. I'm not sold on LA in still defensively, and God help him if this goes on that PKs.
No kidding.
That could get ugly.
Composite over under at 4.5 is a plus 432. As an example as to what they think about that. They think that this game's going to be in that 2 to 3 goal range. I think they're wrong. I think that this one, you got to take the over in a situation like this. 3.5.
I think if it goes over, you probably have to say the edge goes to LA, right?
Yeah. 3.5 is a plus 188 in the composite. 4.5 is a plus 432. I will take the over in that one and run. A couple minutes left with you because I know that you have like coffee and actual work things to do instead of hanging out with us here. There you go. So who's the mug this morning? Oh, went back to your pinstripes. Okay. All right. All right. Austin, favorite at home, big favorite, minus 115. Montreal's an even bigger favorite at home on Sunday at a minus 125. NYC's an even larger favorite at, we think, Citi Field at a minus 155. And then Dallas is on the plus.
Jorge Mas is not happy about that. Did you see that? That's
No.
Yeah, he was saying he tweeted something about if it was when there was still talk of it being switched to Citi Field, and he said something, that they were going to fight it, that if they were going to move to a baseball stadium instead of a proper soccer pitch, that's not even their own state. Like he was very, very salty about it. So.
But then you just need David Beckham to talk about it and say how upset he is not playing on a proper pitch and all those kinds of things, correct?
Wow, that hurt.
That was your Beckham?
That was try. Well, it was on short notice. You have to give me some time. Yeah, our Nick Alifi over at Soccer over there has a better Beckham than I do, but that was, like I said, that was a short notice jump out for that. When you look at these other 4 games, who do you see that could stumble in these other 4? Anybody, or are you looking at chalk?
All right, let's see. So we go. So the first one, what is on Sunday? Is Montreal?
Austin RSL.
Yeah. Could there be some magic there for RSL? I would say maybe for me that might be the only one, only because. But I can't give you any technical or tactical reasons for that.
I just think that
it's just magic in the air.
Well, but I think that Pablo Mastroeni, you get him into the playoffs, and he wants to turn it into a rock fight. He knows that it's about getting through that 90 minutes, and if the ball has cooties, so be it. I don't want to touch it. I'm going to send it long. I'm going to sit there and press. I'm going to create a short
They were the team that won a playoff game without a shot on goal.
Yes.
So
yes.
I give them a puncher's chance, no doubt. I love Montreal at home. Mm-hmm. I love them anyway. I think I think a Eastern Conference final, really kind of with any of the 3 of an NYCFC, Montreal, Philly, like any grouping of that is awesome. And also, just again for Team Chaos, I would love to see MLS Cup at Stade Saputo. Let's get that done.
Hey, look, I mean, I think Montreal gets out of the East. I'll say it right here. I think Montreal gets out of the East. They are your representative of the Eastern Conference that makes it to MLS Cup, and I would love to see it. Then the question is, do you play it at Stade Saputo or do you move it next door to the Big O?
They've just said now I think they're done with the Big O.
Cool, even better. That's going to be, if it's at Stade Saputo, it's going to be a hell of an atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, but yeah, I've got Montreal making it out of the East, and I think that the first team that is very physical with LAFC will knock LAFC out of the playoffs. I think that we've seen in the past when it comes to the physicality, somebody wants to come up, bump Carlos Vela, knock him around, and take it right to that limit before you start get fouls and cards. That's the one thing I think that
Vela. I think Nashville will obviously do that. They've done it, right, in the past, and that's what is intriguing here. Is if it is the Galaxy that win that game, that was the knock on them from their head coach, right? Like that we weren't tough enough. Greg Vanney said that after they got knocked out by Sacramento Republic in the Open Cup, that his team was soft. Now that was obviously several months ago, but I think that if it is El Tráfico again, I think that that could be interesting, right? Like, I think obviously just playoff soccer games in general are obviously a lot more physical, but yeah, they've got to bring that to them. And you wonder now too if Cherundolo, right? He's certainly had a career of playing in some tough soccer games and tough tackles and things of that nature. So you wonder then if if they get a little tougher heading into their game as well. Again, it's not as long of a break as it was last year, like for the Revs and Colorado. But remember, top seeds don't fare very well in this tournament.
No,
Supporter Shield winners do not fare very well in this tournament.
That is absolutely accurate and true. Okay, your allotted time is up, and I'm going to send you on the rest of your day. What is going on with you at MLS Soccer and at OSDB?
It's playoffs, right? So we're diving into that, obviously. And for OSDB, I think I'm going to take a look at what I think is a brilliant concept. That new they just announced it yesterday, the soccer tournament.
Yes,
the small side game. I think that's amazing. That's such a great idea.
7-on-7.
Clint Dempsey's obviously involved as well. So I'll have a little bit of a piece on that on OSDB Sports.
And what's your football game this weekend?
Yeah, I got Friday night. I'm out at St. Anthony's, top-ranked team in New York State. Their homecoming, they take on Fordham Prep. Expect St. Anthony's to win that game, but that should be fun. It was actually funny. I was trying to think back. I'm like, when did they last play? Because these two teams don't play each other every year. It was 2010.
Wow.
In the semifinals, and I was there covering it. They were both 9-0 at the time. It's a different landscape now, but you get those flashbacks, like of that game. So that was pretty cool that I was there that game, and I'll be there on the call this Friday. And then no game Saturday because I got the playoffs. So
okay, and so for folks that want to see if they can find a way to their favorite VPN to watch you on Friday, how do they do it?
Yeah, I mean, you could either go to Varsity Media on YouTube,
okay,
and hit subscribe, and you could watch the game there, or we have a collaboration with the Yes Network app, so we are on the Yes app as well. So obviously the Yankees are playing, but they're not on the Yes, right? So if you want to go to the Yes app, it's not Brooklyn Nets season yet. NYCFC, they're now on national television as well. So we are, you get your live sports with us on the Yes app.
Yes, and you can go back and see the North Shore at Seaford game from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you don't watch that game.
No? Okay. It's because it was 2 hours and 6 minutes, and as I continue to work my way back.
I wasn't on the game. If you want to find me on the game.
There we go. Okay. So, yeah. So, Varsity.
I was on Farmingdale, Freeport. I was on Bethpage, Plain Edge. What else was I on? I don't know. A few different games. You'll see.
Okay. Well, so just look for high school football on Varsity Media, which I have now subscribed to, and I am now one of the 21,600 subscribers on the YouTube.
Nice.
So, you got to look out for everybody who's part of the familia. We see how that works. All right, get out of here, and we'll catch up with you next week after round one.
All right, buddy.